if you went back to 1900 and we sat in this room and we said, how do we judge whether we've done a good job by civilization? We have literally knocked it out of the park. Things like poverty. In 1900, 9 in every 10 people on this planet lived in what the United Nations defined as abject poverty. Today, that number is 1 in 10, an almost complete reversal of the ratio of poverty on this planet. Things like democracy. 56% of the planet has access to a democratic state today. That number was 1% in 1900. Literacy. 12% of the planet was literate in 1900. Today, that number is 85% of the planet. Mapping almost identically to basic education, which was 17% in 1900, today 86%. So are we better off? Yeah, we're significantly better off than we were in 1900. That usually brings up two very big buts. That did not sound good. Two very big objections. One objection is someone always puts up their hand and says, okay, that may be true, and we may be significantly better off. However, we are dying at a rapid rate. We are constantly plagued by terrorism and civil conflict and war and shootings in schools. This is a very dangerous time to be alive. Turns out that's just not true. If you map back since the time we can record it in about 1400, you need to focus on that blue line at the end. You are living in the lowest era of human death since we could record it in 1400. That means military, terrorism, civilian, murder rates all combined. You are living in an age of human life that is unprecedented. In fact, the largest killer in the world today is cardiovascular disease. Then the second objection, or big but, is that's fine, but we work too hard. What technology has done is it has enslaved us. We're in a position where we're always on. You're constantly tethered to a device. We are slaves to the tech we build. Turns out that's also bullshit. You work literally half the number of hours of a human being that walked on this planet in 1900, half the number of hours. So if we are living twice or 3 times as long, better educated, better access to democracy and information and educational institutions, more disposable time, it would be naive to think that we are not fundamentally different to the people who walked on this planet 100 years ago. You are functionally rewritten. Here's the problem. The problem is the houses that we built don't fit the people who live here anymore. The institutions that govern our lives, education, government, religion, the family unit, are fractured because they no longer have kept pace with the people we've evolved to. They are old and stagnant, and most of the change you're experiencing is the change in the people that we've become and the failure of these institutions to keep pace with that. You can see it in everything from the US election, our own elections, the failure of the education system. It's a through-line story that goes through everything. Here's why. In sociology, we have a term called inversion. And in inversion, effectively, you build a power pyramid in all of your structures. So you think about all the institutions that govern our lives, they all follow a pyramid. Top down, prime minister, president, head of state, chief rabbi, pope, whatever it is. Except in 1996, when the internet becomes ubiquitous, something very important happens. You, as a species, begin to own your own communication at mass scale at a global level. Prior to 1996, that was not true. So all of a sudden, we own our own communication for the first time in the history of our species at a mass level where no one can intervene. It's not expensive. You don't need a printing press. You don't need a cable head. And what happens is inversion. And in inversion, all these power pyramids start to flip. Now, depending where you are and where you live, it all looks a little bit different, but arguably as a society, we're probably about here. And much of the change that you're experiencing and feeling is us with this seasickness societally trying to get used to what it's like to live in an inverted world. Now, if you're in the consumer industry, which is where I spend most of my time, you are fully inverted. All you need to do is look at United Airlines as a great example of that. When that doctor got pulled off that plane, do you remember that? We all saw the video and thought, I've had a similar experience with United. When that happens, if that happened 15 years ago, United wouldn't have returned a phone call. Turns out in 2017, they still don't return phone calls. Here's what happened. In the 48 hours that video played, the market cap of United Airlines dropped by nearly $500 million. In 48 hours. That is the power of inversion. So when I talk to you about this rewrite, I want to state to you again the importance of this. You are not living in an innovation era. This is not about disruption. Don't let people mislead you. Those are terms that make up a much larger phenomena going on around you, which is that we are in a position of a common sensification of this planet, a reset of the structures that we built that are no longer relevant to the people that we've become.